Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are well. Today, I wanted to speak about the process of letting go and why it's a vital aspect to creating a new identity for yourself and becoming the version of yourself that you want to become. So, I was reading the Sermon on the Mount today. That's something that's found in the Bible, and it speaks about a teaching that Jesus was giving to his followers. And this idea I've been thinking about making, and the quote in which encapsulates the topic of letting go is found in that. And so I found that that was kind of a sign for me to make this video, just because of how that experience lined up. And so that quote, in essence, is that you cannot serve two masters. And this is very true in the process of letting go. Right now, and in the present moment, we have a certain identity. And that identity is based on our past, the experiences that we're having, what our hopes and dreams for the future are. It's like a character in a sense. And that character has certain traits to it. It has certain goals, dreams, past experiences that have happened to it. It's this whole identity. And so in this identity that we have of ourselves, we are, in a sense, attached to that based on the belief that that's who we are. And by virtue of us believing that that's who we are, it becomes who we are. So if we believe that we're not confident, then we're going to show up in a way that makes us not confident. If we believe that we need validation to feel valued in life, then we're going to go about life seeking that validation so that we can feel valued, and so on and so forth. So our belief of who we are, basically our identity, dictates how we experience life and the perspective of life that we experience. And those kind of reinforce each other. And so the problem I think that happens is that a lot of people get stuck in the current identity, which oftentimes maybe was shaped when we were a child or when we had a traumatic experience. The identity becomes very cemented in our life and in our psyche because of the emotional weight to that. So I think when we think of things in our life, most often the things that we recall the most prominently or the most strongly are the things that have the most emotion attached to it. And that is why a lot of the times our identity is based on traumas or the wins or losses that we've had. Most oftentimes the losses and the negative, just because in psychology, the mind has a tendency to focus on negative due to it being a survival mechanism. Because obviously in our past, things that were negative were obviously much more detrimental to our survival. And so those things have a lot more weighting in our psyche in terms of the importance that we place on it. So from a survival perspective, that's why we tend to fixate and focus on negative things. But also that is our biological hardware at work, not necessarily the way that the modern day dangers are. And so a lot of the anxieties we have, a lot of the beliefs and focus on the negative aspects that we're experiencing in life come from, in a sense, you could say, an old hardware or an old software, and it's kind of outdated. It's still very valuable, but the dangers are not as much as our biology believes them to be. And so because of all of this, the psychology, the biology, the experiences we've had, we create an identity of ourselves, of how we believe we are. And we go through life through that perspective. And where I feel this lesson comes in is that we can never really become the best version of ourselves, or the version that we want to be of ourselves, without letting go of that old identity. And that's because if we have these two identities, and as Jesus was saying, these two masters in our life, we can't serve them equally. We can only serve one at a time. And so that's why a lot of the time, and I do want to go into this in another video, but that's why a lot of the time when we have our identity of how we are and we try to change and become better, we can do that for like maybe a day, a week, or a month, but eventually it just starts feeling like work. And the reason that happens is because we're still stuck in our old identity. We are still serving the old master. We still believe that that's who we are. So it's like we try on this new identity, and for a while we persist in the discomfort of it and the not knowing of the unpredictability of it. And some things feel good, some things don't really feel as good. But a lot of the times we regress back to our old identity, the baseline that we have within us. And so this is why most people just never change, whether it's a negative habit or the things that they do in their life, the way they speak, their accent, their hobbies, their passions. Most people remain the same throughout a extended period of time, and they become very habitual in that process because of the cemented identity, and because the experiences that you go through that identity reinforce that identity even more. So it's in a sense a self-reinforcing cycle of identity and external reality. But we need to understand that if we want to change, we have to let go of the old identity. We can understand that it is a part of us, but it's a part of us that no longer serves us anymore. And so we need to let go of it. We don't need to override it. We don't need to force our new identity. We simply need to let go of the old identity. So if I take the example of being not confident and then wanting to be confident, we can do all the things in the world that reinforce to us that we are confident. But if fundamentally we still hold on to the belief that we're not confident, then those things are only ever going to be a band-aid solution and like a very weak glue for this identity. We can never truly adopt that without letting go of the identity of not being confident. And this applies to so many aspects of life, whether it's relationships, people having beliefs that relationships are not worth the time, that they never work out, that they always attract a certain type of person. Those beliefs are the things that create those experiences in your reality. And so I think it's so important that we don't look for the new identity externally, but we understand how we want to be. We understand and we use our imagination and our thinking mind to understand what it is that our goals look like, our dreams look like, and the way we want to show up and how we feel. And we need to, in a sense, keep that in mind while simultaneously letting go and being aware of the way that we currently are. So going back to the example of us not being confident, we have to realize that it's just the belief that we're not confident. There's nothing externally that says we're not confident other than past experiences which don't exist anymore, and the identity that you have of yourself, which you reinforce by believing it. So once we let go of that, it's like we empty the cup so that we can put a new identity in it. And I think this is something that I'm learning, and I think a lot of these videos and these teachings I do make to share the mentality and hopefully teach people, but a lot of the times I'm learning it simultaneously. So a big part of the learning process is me also being able to teach it so that I can internalize it even further. And I think that it's very important that we know the way we want to be and be aware of the way that we currently are, and show up in a way in life where we understand that our identity, or the way that life is and we're experiencing it, is merely that way because we believe it's that way. So I'm not debating how real the external reality is, but what I am saying is that the way we perceive it is based on our beliefs. And when we understand that our beliefs are simply attachment to ideas, the habit of believing that we are a certain way, we get to the understanding that, well, if we just let go of feeling that we are a certain way or believing that we deserve certain things, and start to believe and start to adopt a greater version of that, while also at the same time letting go of the limitations that we've placed on ourselves, the restrictions that we've placed in our lives, then I think that's the biggest part of the process of achieving a higher version of yourself and a more successful experience of life. I think the letting go process is so important and so fundamental to becoming the new version of you that a lot of the time it's overlooked because of how simple it is. And obviously letting go is not easy, but at the same time, you don't have to do anything to let go. You just have to, in a sense, decide not to believe the thing anymore. So on one hand, it's so simple, but on the other hand, you can spend your whole life trying to do that. And that's just what I wanted to share today. It's something that I'm grappling with. I think you'll always have this aspect of your life, letting go and creating new identities of yourself, coming into higher versions of the way you want to be. And so I'm learning a lot about it. I hope watching this video, it gives you clarity in terms of how the mechanism works and how important it is. And as I do learn about it, I definitely will share my experiences. I want to do this more consistently. And for me, making these videos is actually part of the letting go process, because I always felt like the video has to be perfect. I have to use the perfect camera. I have to follow a script exactly as it is, and it just has to be perfect. But I realized the way I want to show up in my life, the identity I have of myself and the identity I want to create, is that of someone who's just sharing the message that I have and being unfiltered in the sense of just showing up the way I want. And so for me, making these videos, in as much as it is an action, it's also part of the letting go process. So that's how actions and the way we show up can also reinforce letting go, because it reaffirms to us our new identity and helps us let go and unplug ourselves from the old identity that we have of ourselves. So I hope that this helped in some sense. And I hope that if you're watching this, you become more aware of the beliefs that you have and your internal reality and how that affects your external reality. And I hope that unplugging process, or that coming into your higher versions of yourself, comes across as something that helps change your life. And so I do hope this video helped you in some way. I know it helped me to express, but also internalize as well the process of letting go. But thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.